Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. We are in the fourth section, where Kaśyapa is glorifying his wife and importance of wife in the Grihastha ashram. So we are at text 19 now. Yamahuratmano hyardam shreyaskamasya manini yasyam swaduram madhyasya pumanscharati vijvaraha. Translation.
O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called a better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. Purport: by the Vedic injunction, the wife is accepted as the better half of a man's body because she is supposed to be responsible for discharging half of the duties of the husband. A family man has a responsibility to perform 5 kinds of sacrifices called Panch Yajna in order to get relief from all kinds of unavoidable sinful reaction incurred in the course of his affairs. Qualitatively like the cats and dogs, he forgets his duties in cultivating as a sense gratificatory agency. When the wife is accepted as a sense gratificatory agency, personal beauty is the main consideration, and as soon as there is a break in personal sense gratification, there is disruption or divorce. Hare Krishna, sorry.
Yeah, continue. I mean, I'm not able to hear anything.
Oh, is it the case for everyone? Otherwise, I will stop reading and I will ask someone else to read.
No, clear, bro.
It's breaking. It's audible now.
Yeah, okay. But when husband and wife aim at spiritual advancement by mutual cooperation, there is no consideration of personal beauty or the disruption of so-called love. In the material world, there is no question of love. Marriage is actually a duty performed in mutual cooperation as directed in the authoritative scriptures for spiritual advancement. Therefore, marriage is essential in order to avoid the life of cats and dogs who are not meant for spiritual enlightenment. Hare Krishna.
Very beautiful verse. And this is the verse where this famous phrase, better half, comes from, right? O respectful one, Kaśyapa is addressing Diti. A wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of the man's body because of her sharing in all the auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all the responsibilities to his wife. Very amazing verse. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that in the Vedic injunctions, wife is accepted as the better half of the man's body. So many times Vedas are otherwise thought about, but the Vedic injunction is the wife is considered as the better half, and the sacrifice cannot be performed without presence of the wife. And here Prabhupada says, a grihastha is duty bound to perform yagyas especially Pancha Yagya in the previous ages. Now in Kali Yuga, there is only one Yagya which is recommended. Yagyai Sankirtana Pragi. Otherwise, without this element of sacrifice, there is always a chance of leading a life qualitatively like cats and dogs. Right? What is the meaning of cats and dogs means? Forgetting the cultivation of the spiritual values, simply living. That is the value, that is the life of cats and dogs. And thus he accepts the wife as the sense gratificatory agency. But that is not the case. And when wife is accepted as the sense gratificatory agency, personal beauty is the main consideration, Prabhupada writes here. And therefore, whenever we go ahead with the marriage counseling, we tell devotees, don't look for somebody who is very beautiful or very handsome if you're looking for a boy or looking for a girl. Otherwise, whatever the case is, you say presentable. But what we very positively tell people is to match the patrika. Because that's a huge science in itself. And Srila Prabhupada also in many purports will be writing about this later, that how one has to match the patrika and make sure that things are aligned from the higher perspective. Right. So when the husband and wife come together and aim for spiritual advancement, then that is considered to be very, very auspicious. And that is the real purpose of Vivaha Samskara. It is not marriage contract. It is Vivaha Samskara. And Samskara is always for purification. And this is considered as one of the purification. Text 20. Yamashrittendriya ratin durjaye nitarashramai vayam jaye mahela bhir dasyun durgapatir yatha. Translation.
As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers. By taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social orders. Purport. Of the four orders in human society, the student or a brahmachari order, the householder or grahastha order, the retired or vanaprastha order, and the renounced or sannyasa order. The householder is on the safe side. The bodily senses are considered plunderers of the fort of the body. The wife is supposed to be commander of the fort, and therefore, whenever there is an attack on the body by the senses, it is the wife who protects the body from being smashed. The sex demand is inevitable for everyone, but one who has a fixed wife is saved from the onslaught of the sense enemies. A man who possesses a good wife does not create a disturbance in society by corrupting virgin girls. Without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee of the first order and is nuisance in society, unless he is a trained brahmachari, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Unless there is a rigid and systematic training of brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, and unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex. There are so many instances of fall down, even for a great yogis like Vishwamitra. A grahastha is saved, however, because of his faithful wife. Sex life is the cause of material bondage, and therefore it is prohibited in 3 ashramas and is allowed only in the grahastha ashrama. The grahastha is responsible for producing first quality brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis.
Further now, here, Kaśyapa Muni says, as a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers. By taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in other social orders. So you will see this, the importance of the Durga in the previous war times. Even up to last 300 years ago, you will see that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, Peshwe, Bajirao Peshwe, and these warriors, they will have their fort, and by taking the strategic positions in the fort, they will defeat the enemy. That's like a very powerful enemy attacked, and let's say Afzal Khan, he came, and Shiva Chhatrapati, he was inside the fort, And where is strategically using the fort, a bigger enemy can be attacked and bigger enemy can be defeated. Similarly, here, wife is considered as the fort or Durga. And what is the attack? Attack of the senses on the body can be prevented by the presence of the wife. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says there are four orders of the human society: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. And of these, householders are on the safer side. Okay. Why? Because the bodily senses are considered to be plunderers here, and the wife is supposed to be the fort which will save the husband from the attack of the senses. Otherwise, Prabhupada says here, a man will create simply a disturbance in the society, corrupting so many virgin girls. Okay. And now, more so now, it is so very becoming true. Right. So Prabhupada says, when Prabhupada was in America, this is almost 70, 60 years back, Prabhupada says, there are old people unable to lift their hand, but they will go to the nightclubs and will be dancing, will be seeing the bar girls dancing and throwing money on them, although their hands are not able to lift and throw the notes also, dollar notes. Therefore, Prabhupada says it is the duty of a grihastha to be responsible to produce first class brahmacharis. And when there are first class brahmacharis, there will be first class grihasthas. First class grihasthas will lead to first class vanaprasthas and first class sannyasis. So, grihastha ashram is considered to be the mother of all other ashrams, where all other three ashrams take birth from the grihastha ashram itself. So, very amazing verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is glorifying the grihastha life and importance of husband and wife living together and executing their devotional activities. Text 21. Navayam prabhavastam tvamun kartum gruheshwari apyayushavakarjnena naye channe gunagrunan. Translation.
O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done, even if we worked our entire life or even after death. To repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. Purport: so much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is henpecked or is talking lightly in joke. Kaśyapa meant that householders living with wives enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment and at the same time have no fear of going down to hell. The man in the renounced order of life has no wife. Sorry, could somebody please continue to read?
The man in the renounced order of life has no wife and may be driven by sex desire to seek another woman or another's wife and thus go to hell. In other words, the so-called man of the renounced order who has left his house and wife goes to hell if he again desires sexual pleasure, knowingly or unknowingly. In that way, the householders are on the side of safety. Therefore, husbands as a class cannot repay their debt to women either in this life or in the next. Even if they engage themselves in repaying the women throughout their whole lives, it is still not possible. Not all husbands are as able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives, but even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt of the wife. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking. Hare Krishna.
So now Kaśyapa says, "O Diti, you are Griheshwari, queen of the home, and we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you what has been done by you." And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the two paradigms here, two outlooks. The one outlook, Prabhupada says, although Kaśyapa knew that what he is going to do and the time of approach is very, very wrong, but still, feeling the weakness in front of the demand, he is going to succumb, and therefore he is justifying, he is succumbing to that desire on one side. And another side, Prabhupada also says, the other view of angle here is this is the position of the ladies in the house, right? So previous verse, text 20, she is being called as respectful one. 19, 20, they are called as the better half. Then they are called as Durga, and now they are called as Griheshwari, right? So Prabhupada says here that the Grihasthas live on the safer side because they are living in the atmosphere which is there is the attack of the senses can be repelled in a very, very appropriate position. But this facility is not available for either in the renounced order of life or other ashramas because while being in the other ashrama, if one desires otherwise, kama ichha, then one's falling is certain and one's going to hell is certain. So Prabhupada writes here. So in that way, grihasthas live on the side of the safety. And for this reason, therefore, Prabhupada says, husband as a class cannot repay the debt of the woman either in this or in the next life. So the idea in the Sanatana Dharma is that we are always indebted. And performance of the duty, we are always indebted to so many people, right? And the performance of the duty while remaining in Krishna consciousness is considered to be the most important. And Srila Prabhupada says this is the extraordinary praise that is coming from Kaśyapa, and which also indicates one side a gratitude, another side that he is succumbing to the desire at a wrong time, although he is aware of such a thing is happening. Text 22. Athapi kamamitam te prajatyai karavanyam yatha mam natirochanti muhurtam pratipalaya. Translation.
Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sense gratification desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But you must wait for say only a few seconds so that others may not reproach you. Purport. The henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her. But as for begetting children by fulfilling a sense gratificatory desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kaśyapa's being very eager, he requested her to wait for a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. He explains his position as follows.
So now Kaśyapa here, even though I am not able to repay you, Kaśyapa said, he will satisfy the desire immediately for seeking the begetting children. And he said that please wait for a few seconds. And the purport Srila Prabhupada says that the henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife, but otherwise his kama ichha can be easily satisfied. And this is easy task. Otherwise, the person is thoroughly impotent. But he asks her to still wait for a few seconds. And now, why he asked to wait for a second? Now, this is an important verse. We will recite this verse. Text 23. Slightly dangerous verse, but still will recite. Isha Goratama Vela
Esha
Isha
Ghoratama
Ghoratama
Veda
Veda
Goranam Ghoradarshanam
Ghoranam
Ghoranam
Ghoradarshana
Ghoradarshana
Charanti Yasyam Bhutani
Charanti
Charanti
Yasyam
Yasyam
Bhutani
Bhutani
Bhuteshanucharaniha.
Bhuteshanucharaniha.
Translation.
This particular time is most inauspicious because at this time the horrible looking ghosts and constant companions of the Lord of the Ghosts are visible. Purport. Kaśyapa has already told his wife Diti to wait for a while, and now he warns her that failure to consider the particular time will result in punishment from the ghosts and evil spirits who move during this time, along with their master Lord Rudra.
Yeah. So, Esham Ghoratama Vela. Vela means the period. So this time period is extremely horrible. Ghoranam Ghora Darshana. That the horrible creatures, Ghora Darshana, who are very horrible to look at, are visible. Charanti Yasyam Bhutani. Charanti. This is the time when they move around along with their master. Bhutesha Anucharina. So this is the dangers of sense gratification at the wrong time. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Kaśyapa has already told his wife Diti to wait for a while. And now he warns her the failure to consider a particular time. Why? Because this is the time, and therefore it is said that the Sandhya time one should not sleep. There are certain regulations. And people may laugh at this. They're saying, oh, you're too old thought people. No, but this is, very strong evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam. Many things in the Shastra, they were being mocked at and then later proved to be true. The list is big, but certain things are still being mocked at. And, the science is yet to prove that true, right? So one thing is like, taking, having the eclipse period, how the whole thing becomes contaminated. So this is not yet scientifically proven, although there are some studies, but there is not widespread acceptance for that. The second is the Sandhya period. Of course, in our Vedic civilization, we see that in the Sandhya period, you will have, the lamp, we will lit up the lamp in the evening, we will have the prayers at that time, because Sandhya is considered to be very, very unstable. And there is always a chance of, the weakness in that period. Therefore, Prata Sandhya, Sayam Sandhya, Madhyana Sandhya, these are the three Sandhyas. And those who are Brahman initiated, they are supposed to chant their Gayatri mantras and other mantras in this period. What is forbidden strictly in this period is the activity of sense gratification and sleep in this period. And therefore, we will say that devotees are asked to get up before the sunrise and asked to, then, and certain places this is followed very, very strictly, like some Vaishnava communities, certain, you will see that Marwadi communities, Jain communities, they will follow this very strictly. Of course, I'm reluctant to say one point where the science is yet to, the Vedas talk about this, but science is yet to prove. So this was the Sandhya period. And here, Kaśyapa Muni says that one can see the Ghora Tama, Ghora Darshana. Okay. And this is, please wait for a while, let this Sandhya period pass by, and then we can be engaged in the activity. And this is how he warns Diti about this. Text 24. This is also an important verse, not a very nice verse, but we will recite this. Etasyam sadvi sandhyayam
Etasyaಂ
Etasam
sadvi sandhyayam
Sandhyayam
Bhagavan bhuta bhavanah
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Buddha
Bhagavan
Bhuta
Bhavana
Bhavana
parito bhuta parshabhir
Parito
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 Bhuta
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 Parshadhi
Parshadhi
Parshabhi
Krushenatati bhutarat.
Krishena Tati
Krishnatati
Bhutara.
Bhutara.
Translation.
Lord Shiva, the king of ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. Purport. Lord Shiva or Rudra is the king of the ghost. Ghostly characters worship Lord Shiva to be gradually guided towards path of self-realization. Mayavadi philosophers are mostly worshippers of Lord Shiva, and Sripad Shankaracharya is considered to be the incarnation of Lord Shiva for preaching godlessness in the Mayavadi philosophers to the Mayavadi philosophers. Ghosts are bereft of a physical body because of their grievously sinful acts, such as suicide. The last resort of ghostly characters in human society is to take shelter of suicide, either material or spiritual. Material suicide causes loss of the physical body, and spiritual suicide causes loss of the individual identity. Mayavadi philosophers desire to lose their individuality and merge into the impersonal spiritual Brahmajyoti existence. Lord Shiva, being very kind to the ghost, says that although they are condemned, they get physical bodies. He places them into the wombs of women who indulge in sense gratification regardless of the restrictions on time and circumstances. Kashyapa wanted to impress this fact upon Diti so that she might wait for a while.
Yeah. So Kaśyapa said, this is the time when Lord Shiva, who is a Bhutarat, is the king of the ghost, sitting on the back of his bull carrier Nandi, travels at this time accompanied by the ghosts who follow him for their welfare. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Shiva, Rudra, is called as the king of the ghost. So Rudra is a very, very amazing personality, Lord Shiva. He lives in the smashan. He will put the rock, the ash on the body, and he will be sitting on the bull Nandi, and he will be moving around with ghosts and hobgoblins. Preta, Pishacha, and Bhuta, they are being moving around. Why? Because Lord Shiva is the greatest of the Vaishnava. Vaishnavanam yatha shambho. When such thoroughly condemned living entities, Prabhupada says, who grossly misuse their independence and commit suicide, then what happens? They are bereft of their physical bodies, but they continue with their subtle bodies. So the Vedic understanding is that when a living entity, karmana daivanetrena, is given a body, he is given two bodies. Living entity has two bodies. One is gross body, bhumi rapo anlo vayu kham, and then there is subtle body, mana buddhi ahankar. Right. So whenever a living entity enters a body, he is supposed to live a certain period in that body. And that period is not counted in number of years. That period technically is counted in number of breaths. That say he is supposed to take, say, 2 lakh breath, some X number of breaths in this particular body. And that is a kind of imprisonment given to that living entity. Just like, the judge will say, you are in prison for 14 years. So similarly, the living entity, according to his desires, according to what he deserves, is awarded a particular body. And along with the body will come the particular set of sukha dukkha based on his karmic reactions from the past. There will be independence if it is in the human form of life. There will be no independence if one is in the animal form of the life. They will simply live by the instinct. So say somebody comes in the human life with X number of breaths. Now we will not talk in terms of breath. We will say in terms of years, which is more conventional. Somebody comes to a life and he's supposed to live for, say, 85 years. But prematurely, if somebody out of agony, out of frustration, out of XYZ, whatever the feelings are, somebody commits a suicide, then that is considered as a gravest sin, which is against the law of the order. What is the suicide? See, the first thing is the soul can never be killed. Na jayate, mriyate, va kadachin. It is spiritual. What you will kill? Satchidananda. Soul is Satchidananda. Okay. Now, within the body, the subtle body also cannot be killed. Subtle body will always be there with the soul, and therefore we have to purify the subtle body. But the soul keeps on changing the gross body as per the shape of the subtle body. So suicide means what happens? A living entity is supposed to live in that body for X number of years, in our example of 85 years, and he commits suicide at the age of 25. For remaining 60 years, this living entity will not be awarded physical body because Daiva and Kala, they have not given that body. So what will happen is this living entity will roam around only with the subtle body without having the facility of gross body. So there will be desires, there will be so many the experiences in this living entity who wants to fulfill desire, who wants to have experience, but the medium through which the living entity is supposed to fulfill the desire or supposed to get these experiences, the gross body, he has already given up by some suicidal activity. And such a living entity becomes a ghost, which is extremely unsteady, transitory, extremely sinful, and extremely painful existence. And such people, for their spiritual upliftment, they are given shelter by Bhutanath, Lord Shiva, who is Vaishnavanam Yathashambho. So this is where Lord Shiva does his preaching, right? Lord Shiva's preaching is to Bhutas and Pretas. Why? Because he is the last resort, he is the last hope of such living entities. And therefore, for this activity, Lord Shiva is considered as the greatest of the Vaishnava. So all these ghosts and hobgoblins, they are moving around with Lord Shiva so that they will receive a suitable body for their welfare. And therefore this word comes there. The ghosts follow Lord Shiva in this period for their welfare. And now they are supposed to give a body. And those who are engaged in untimely karma activities, they will be, such mother and father will be blessed with the soul who is having the ghostly existence. Right? And this is the warning Kaśyapa Muni gives to Diti, and he says that please wait for a while, because the intercourse at this time and under these circumstances, particularly this, Esha Ghoratama Vela, Ghoranam Ghora Darshana, Charanti Yasyam Bhutani, where Lord Shiva, along with Bhutarat, Bhuta Bhavana, they are moving around and aboarding the living entity, a particular body, you are going to attract those kind of vibes. You are going to attract those kind of living entities by having this activity right now. So therefore, Diti, please wait for a while. And this is how one is. This is the importance of following the Sandhya also, right? Gayatri is there. And therefore, we chant this glorification of Guru, glorification of Gauranga, glorification of the Supreme Lord. In the evening, one keeps oneself busy in the preaching activity or reading Srimad Bhagavatam or something like that. This comes in our Dhyayan Tuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. So this is how Diti is being warned by Kaśyapa, and let's see what happens tomorrow. So we'll conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone. Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, this is Leela Kadas.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, today I cannot log in from my iPhone. I don't know if there is any problem. The site could not be opened today, Prabhu.
Oh, अच्छा.
I generally मतलब web application से login करता हूँ प्रभु.
हाँ, right.
Safari browser से वो login मतलब नहीं हो रहा था.
Could you send me the video once? I'll look into it.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Tapan will be our last resort.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.